This is a test. We're testing our microphone system. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hear that all right, Dave? Not getting anything?
The only one say something.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it is. There's a delay.
Gotcha. So then it came through. Okay. So we should be good.
That would have been a problem.
Just a little bit. Yeah, it's just like, what?
So they'll hear it's calling us after we
delayed
say
a
it.
little.
Yeah, it's delayed a little while.
Is that so that in case we have to do the 7-second delay on TV if somebody says something? That must be the varsity game, right?
Not a bad chance for just 2
No,
weeks practice.
yeah.
That's what they spent their time before that.
Yeah, that's all they could do all summer.
That was the virtual cheer squad? Yes.
It's a good intro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he's young.
I was so glad when Jan got to playing softball where they were old enough that they weren't chanting on every pitch about something.
But
Yes.
Really?
we trained that one summer and then I had to stop them after the first game. Like, you guys do the same one over. And it was- Let's just go back to cheering for our teammates.
We heard this.
Yeah. Sounds great in college, not in 6th grade softball.
But even, was it, I think last year Waterville varsity was doing much better. And they were very good, so they can get
Right. Well, that's probably why college sounds good.
Right. All right, good evening out there, everyone who is listening and those who are online following. Tonight, here at NRHEG, the Teachers Association is hosting a forum for our school board candidates for the upcoming election, having some questions and answer sessions so that you, the voter, can be informed and make some decisions on who you wish to vote for in the upcoming election for our NRHEG school board. We have 7 people running for 3 positions that are 4-year terms. We have 2 incumbents, Karen Flatness and Dan Schmidt, and Karen could not be here tonight because of an obligation. We also have Terry Engel, Jennifer Johnson, Nancy Lageson, Lauren Shanerock, and Tammy Tufty-LeCan. So 7 people for those 3 positions. There's also a 2-year term, and that is Joanne Hagan-Maloney is the only person running for that. She is also currently on the school board. Joanne is also not here tonight because of an obligation. So November 3rd is a very important day, of course, not only nationally and statewide, but locally, so that we can have good decisions made on who we're bringing onto our school board. I'd also like to remind those of you out there, if you are listening and you have a question you'd like to send in, we have an email set up, boardforum at nrheg.k12.mn.us. So boardforum at nrheg.k12.mn.us. And if you have a question you'd like to have asked, you can send that in, and we will we'll scroll through those and make sure we have a chance to ask some of those as well. We have we're going to begin tonight with having each of the candidates come forward. We're situated in the media center here in New Richland, and they're going to each take a couple minutes to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what prompted them to run for the NRHEG school board. and what sort of strengths and qualifications they feel they'll bring to the district. So we will begin with Jennifer Johnson. Will give her opening statements.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Johnson, and I'm one of the 7 candidates running for one of the 3 school board spots. I have lived in New Richland for 17 years. I currently live on my husband's family farm, 3 miles north of town. We have 4 children. 2 of them have graduated from NRHEG, and 2 are current students in NRHEG. I work in Owatonna at an insurance office as an agent. Joining a board, be it a school board, a fair board, a church board, it's like jumping on a train that's moving. The other board members have been working very busy together to form a vision, and they have goals. I want to jump on that train and believe that I can figure out how to be a part of that and add to that and be of service for the community. I want to work as a team and be a team member to set measurable goals and achieve those visions. I want to understand the finances and the budgets and help the district stay in a healthy spot. I want to focus on the students, their achievements, and ensure that they are successful when they leave the high school. I believe I can share and give my time and talents to benefit the school and the community. I believe I can represent the students, the teachers and staff, and the community. I want to be a voice for the students and parents, support the district staff, and help public educate themselves. I will listen and be respectful to each board member. I will hold myself accountable to the public. I believe I can help achieve the financial goal and budget to stay on target. I hope to have a positive relationship with the other board members and to be able to express my thoughts and beliefs, even if they are different from the other board members. A strong board should be made up of different beliefs and thoughts because each board member should be representing a group of people in our community. I plan to attend school events and be approachable to others that have questions and concerns.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Next up, Tammy Tufty-LeCan will have her opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Tufty-LeCan. I've been involved in the school district for 13 years. When my oldest 2 started to attend, we lived outside of the district at that time, but years later, and knowing how great of a district it is to be in, open enrolled them. About 5.5 years ago, my family moved up just west of Ellendale, a couple miles west of Ellendale. I really want to be a voice for all the stakeholders, whether it be the students, the staff, the parents, the taxpayers, and community members, not only in the New Richland area of the district, but all of the outlying communities that are affected. So my qualifications, I'm a mortgage lender, so I've been in business and leadership for 20 plus years. I have negotiation skills. I volunteered. I was on the PTO as a treasurer for years, for a Day Foundation. I'm a faith formation teacher, so love to give back to the community that I am in and love to represent those in that community. Accountability is something that I'd like to see progress within the district, whether that be with the administration, the staff, the students, all the way down to the parents and community members. We're all a group, we're all in together, so we definitely need to work together as a school board, work together as a community, and work together, since our school is split in different communities, that as well. So all of those things matter to me, matter to my family, and should matter to the community as a whole. So the accountability piece, I believe, is one of the bigger things that said, hey, Tammy, you can do this. You can speak up for the stakeholders and be approachable. You're in Geneva community. You're down in Heartland. You're over in Ellendale. attending events here in New Richland as well. So through that consistency of communication, being able to make sure that everyone in the community is knowing what's going on with the school board. Not everybody has the time or ability to listen to the school board meeting. So to be able to communicate when we come out of a school board meeting, you know, like, what really is this referendum that we're voting on about? What will that do or what will that not do? So those are the type of things I'd like to be able to bring. I appreciate everybody listening and hope for your vote.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Dan Schmidt is up next with his opening statement.
My name is Dan Schmidt, lifelong resident of the district, a current business owner in New Richland here as well. I am choosing to rerun because I still feel that I have a lot to give to the district that has given so much to me. I have a lot of pride in our district, and I want to see that instilled throughout all 4 communities, in that we are one. We should be one community, not 4. We have a lot going on currently, obviously, with budget issues in regards to the referendum, as well as this COVID that we're dealing with. And there's a lot to be done yet, and I still want to be a part of that. I feel that we can still work at that, and I would like to continue seeing our school district thrive. I think it's a never-ending job, getting that district to where we want to be, to where we are the district of choice for area students, and that's where I'd like to see us go. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Lauren Shaderock is up next with his opening statement.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Lauren Shanerock, and I live west of town, west of New Richland here. I've lived there my entire life. Lived there with my wife, Marlene, who has taught in this school district for 30 plus years and just recently retired in the spring of 2019. I farm west of town with corn, soybeans, and hogs, and I've lived through the ups and the downs of the agriculture, and I believe I bring to the board the strength of looking forward to plan for the future when you have the good times and to make it through when you have the bad times. As I said, I've lived here all of my life. I've been educated not in this particular part of the building, but in many parts of the building, and as I walk the halls, it brings back a lot of childhood memories. And one of the memories that I'd like to share was when I attended kindergarten, they were just building the elementary wing. And our kindergarten room happened to be in the southeast corner of the old building, the old school building, just north of the old gym. That was our kindergarten room, and that was a 6-week kindergarten class. And the year after, when I attended first grade, of course, the elementary wing had been built. And the room that we had occupied as a kindergarten class was then the superintendent's office. So as I tell everybody, I spent my kindergarten days in the superintendent's office. But with that, like I said, the education that I received from this building has provided me with the education and the experiences that has gotten me through this far in life. And I would consider it a privilege and an honor to give back to this district the many things and the many opportunities that it has given me throughout my life. I'd like to thank the Education Association tonight for providing this opportunity to speak to the people of the district. And I know that they've worked hard to put this together and put this on, so I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. Nancy Lageson is up next for her opening statement.
Good evening. First of all, I too want to thank the Education Association for this opportunity to allow us to share our reasons and qualifications for wanting to serve the school district and the community as a school board member. Although there's many varying reasons why I believe I'm qualified, 2 simple statements are particularly impactful or relevant. First, I'm a strong and fierce advocate of public education. I've been involved at the city, the county, and the state levels, and I bring decades of professional public service to this position. And secondly, I'm not a single issue candidate, which lends itself to a more balanced approach in decision making. I'm also a strong candidate based on my current involvement with local schools. For the past several years, I volunteered at the elementary school, where I learned firsthand about how that school system operates. It's been an honor to tutor and mentor students, and I'm continually impressed by the dedication and unselfish sacrifice the teachers and the staff make throughout the school. The majority of my professional career has centered around children and the education system in some capacity. Recently retired, my last position was the Waseca County Emergency Management Director. I'm also a retired police officer and spent many years of my career in public school settings as a juvenile detective and a school resource officer. After that 15-year policing career, I was recruited to be the director of the Minnesota School Safety Center at the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. In terms of formal education, I hold a master's degree in educational leadership from St. Mary's University, an Associate of Arts degree in criminal justice from Minneapolis Community College, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in mass communication from the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. One of my goals in running for this position is to be an objective advocate for students to ensure that they receive the highest quality education possible. This means putting educational quality first, even as we cope with COVID-19 and economic recession. A second and related goal is to increase collaboration between the board and students, families, educators, administrators, staff, and community, so that we can all work together to share knowledge and our resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Terry Engel is next for her opening statement.
I don't know if I like being last or not. I sit here and look at what I wrote and I'm like, oh, maybe I want to change all of that. But anyway, my name's Terry Engel, and I am running for school board here at NRHEG. A little bit about me. I began my teaching career in the Allendale Geneva School District and was part of the consolidation period when we became NRHEG. During my 34 years in education, I was employed as the K-8 vocal music teacher and as an elementary classroom teacher. I obtained 2 Bachelor of Arts degrees, one in elementary education and the other in K-12 vocal music. Later in my career, I completed a master's degree in educational leadership through St. Mary's University and spent the last 4 years working closely with administrators and staff, focusing on student achievement, teacher development, and updating curriculum. When I was thinking about what to write tonight, I was looking at our strategic plan belief statements, and I thought that number 4 is one that I would like to make one of my goals if I'm elected to the board. And it reads, the New Richland Heartland Allendale Geneva School District believes in a system of personal accountability to include the school board, administration, staff, students, parents, and the community. We all need to be partners in the success of our school district. It's important that we find ways to increase our student enrollment, increase student achievement, and employ high-quality licensed teachers and educational leaders. We must also meet the social and emotional needs of our students. Schools have changed drastically since we were in school, so we must look at our challenges through a new lens. Additionally, I want to be a board member that spends time in the school buildings listening to the needs of our teachers, students, and staff. Finally, I want to be part of a board that consistently strives to evaluate the progress of our district at every level in the areas of student achievement, student support, facilities, workforce, communication, and marketing, and finance, and make the necessary adjustments needed to improve so that we can truly be the school district of choice. And again, I've lived here my whole life. I love this community. I love all the people in it. And I am very passionate about wanting this school district to thrive in the years to come. So thank you, and I'd appreciate your vote.
All right. Thank you, Terry. For the questions we have coming up, we're going to do some rotating, so it's not always the first person, and there'll be some different orders, and so those of you out there, I'll tell you who's coming up to speak first and so on. And again, if you have any questions you'd like to submit, board forum at nrheg.k12.mn.us. All right, the first question that we're going to have for each of our candidates to address, and we're going to ask them to spend no more than about 2 minutes talking about each of these, is what do you feel are the specific strengths of the NRHEG school district? So Nancy, we'll have you come up first and talk about the strengths of our district currently.
Well, there's a lot of strengths. It's a really strong school district. I'm amazed. We moved here, I suppose 2012, 8 years ago I moved here. But for 35 years I've been coming. We live on a down to Ellendale area, a family farm. My husband, I think, is 5th generation to own it. So I spent the last 35 years coming down and visiting grandpa and grandma and aunts and uncles, and just watching the community and how they support each other. And I love the businesses, and everybody goes to the different ones to make sure that they stay in place. Everybody knows each other. And I grew up in a small town, so I understand that support and structure. So it's just, the strength is that the teachers know everybody, the parents know everybody, they're supportive, the athletic events, it's just the parades, homecoming's amazing. So I've just really enjoyed it. I felt like I kind of went back in time as a kid growing up, and it felt like you just feel community for the first time. So the biggest strength, I think, is just the support that they have within the community for each other. Even with the division, interestingly enough, it's kind of spread out geographically, 3 counties, 4 cities. Even with that, there's an understanding of the community itself, the network of NRHEG. And so they're very proud of it, and it feels so good, and I'd be proud to be a part of that. So thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Terry, you're up next.
I feel like a specific strength of NRHEG is the staff and the teachers. That's what I've worked most closely with for 34 years. I feel and believe with all my heart that our teachers are a resilient bunch of teachers. They have lived through consolidation. They have lived through numerous administration changes, and have always risen to that occasion. They are just, fabulous people. And now with this COVID piece, I just see them, digging in again. And I know it's crazy. I've talked to people about it. This is just such a different environment for these teachers to start to work through and try to figure out how to get a handle on teaching in COVID. And I'm just really, happy to have been part of that group of people. I also think our staff, our support staff, our secretaries in our school buildings are second to none. And I don't think that we could do our jobs without them. And I'd like to say too that our students are second to none. When I think of, I have a grandson that I'm raising and is going through the COVID. Honestly, he wants to be at school, and what is wonderful to see is these little kids just come to school, they wear their masks all day, they follow the rules, they do what they're told, and they just do that without complaining. So I think those things are 3 things that are specific to our school, our teachers, our staff, and our students.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I think our school district has a lot of things that we can be very proud of and our strengths of our district. And the first one that comes to my mind is the facility that we have here. I believe is second to none. With the new addition and the referendum that was passed this past spring, I think we have a facility here that can be the rival of any district around, whether it be a small town or whether it could even be a metro town. And that provides opportunity for our students to learn and to prepare themselves to go out into the world and have the education that they need and that they deserve. And I also agree with Terry when she mentioned our staff. I believe our staff is second to none, and they've worked very hard through this time, of trying time with the COVID. And not only the staff here at the school, but the support staff, the bus drivers, everybody, along with the school board, has done a tremendous amount of work to get through or get into this COVID situation. One of the other strengths that I see here is that the people of these communities have come together as one community. We're all neighbors. We can sit at a basketball game, a wrestling match, a football game. Now we can't, but we could. We could, and we knew everybody. We got along, and the communities came together, I think, and gelled very well. And so I think that's the strength that we have in our district, and I think that shows, and that will be something that brings more students to our district, and that will help us, and it will help them get the education that they deserve. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Tammy?
Thanks, Mark. I would say, as someone who open enrolled their students from outside the district, the biggest strength that brought us here was the education received as well as the staff. Those were the two things, the key points, the small numbers to come to a school. I didn't go to a smaller school such as NRHEG. And so to come from a school where you basically were a number and to have a name, that is a specific strength. To walk down the hall and have a teacher say, "Oh, well, hi, Tammy, hi, Trevor's mom," or "Hi," or, and know the students, know the parents, know how the families connect, is going to be the biggest strength that I see of the school district.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Dan, you are up next.
I feel we have a few strengths. Some have been touched on already. First and foremost, the staff from top on down. I think we're finding out, especially, just how good of staff that we have here. I know as a parent and board member, I've completely appreciated all the work that our staff has done. And tied into that, I think it also speaks volumes that we have such a large number of teachers that have graduated from here and have chosen to come home, so to speak. You don't often see that, and for us to have the numbers we do, I think is pretty amazing. Tied in with that also is our class sizes. As a district, we've done a pretty good job of trying to keep our class sizes down to provide the kids with the best education that we can. Community-wise, I feel that, as others have said, we have a closeness of our community when there's been turmoil, whether it be 100-year floods every couple years. Everybody's there to pitch in and help. And finally, I feel that we've been pretty conscientious of the taxpayers as it pertains to needing more. We've tried to do everything that we can without having to constantly go out and look for more. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Jennifer?
One of the first specific strengths that I think our district holds is not just 4 communities. I look at us as about 8 communities. Maybe they're small, but Mattawan's a community, Waldorf's a community, Hollandale, Clarks Grove. We have kids that come from those places along with Heartland, Allendale, New Richland, and Geneva. And to take 8 communities and pull together as one, you don't ever see that separation at sports events. We don't see nothing now, but but that's something that should be really proud of, that we come together and you don't hear people say, oh, they're the Ellendale people or they're the Geneva people. It's the NRHEG. And we should be proud that we have the NRHEG that everybody calls us, NRHEG. But that's one of my big things, I think.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, what do you feel are the top priorities facing the school district over the next 5 years that our board is going to need to address? Top priorities that we need to address in our school district next 5 years. Terry, you will be up first for this one.
Well, obviously, I think with COVID and the ever-moving amount of monies that we get from the state each year to work with as a school district, I think it's especially important to be fiscally sound and to really look at a 5-year plan. I was thinking back about what Lauren said, about just looking to the future and what can we do to best use the taxpayers' money and to be good stewards of those dollars and make them stretch as far as they can go. Because I do believe that the next 5 years coming up are going to be challenging financially. I also think it's important to retain and attract high-quality teachers for our school districts. We need to make sure that we provide them with the materials that they need to be excellent educators, but it's going to be, I've seen that there aren't as many teachers applying for jobs here at our school district, and it's very challenging to get good teachers in here. And we've done a very good job with that, but I think as the time goes on, that might become a challenge, and I want to make sure that we can be ready for that. The third thing I can think of right now is communication and marketing of our school system. I think that we do have a great school, but I want to make sure that we are out there and communicating that out to other people. I think we need to have an increased platform for getting communications out. I think we should have increased technology. I think there should be Facebook, Twitter, and all of those things. So those are the top things that I think we should do.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren is up next with priorities.
Well, Mark, as I look at that question, I see 4 things that I would consider a priority in the next 5 years for our school district. And the first one, of course, is an excess levy referendum that's coming up in the vote in November. That's important that we continue to fund our school so that it can succeed and that we can best utilize our facility that we have here. And that's a challenge not only for the administration, but it's a challenge for the existing school board, because they need to finance the school, but then they also have to balance what the taxes are going to be to the people in the community. And that's a fine line to walk. The second thing that I see on our priorities is to continue to attract the staff, the top staff in our district. We have quality teachers, and we want to maintain that quality. We don't want to go backwards. And I think that we can do that with the facility that we have. And that leads me to the third thing, and that is the facility. We need to continue to look to see what's needed in the education field and provide that opportunity for our students, because they're the ones that are going to be doing the learning here and going out into college and into the work field, and they need to have the facility that prepares them for that future. And along with that is enrollment. We need to continue to attract students to open enroll, because that helps our school district by being able to offer more classes. And I believe with the facility that we have the opportunity to attract more students to our district. That's what I would consider the top priorities for our school district in the next 5 years.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but a lot of these priorities seem to be the same. I would say my top priority, especially after COVID and what we're dealing with now, is going to be teacher and staff retention. What has been thrown at them over the last 6 months has been unheard of. I can't even imagine being a teacher in this world. I watch my kids and can't imagine being a student in this world. So to see how they're making it work in a situation that is almost unheard of is amazing. So we want to make sure that we take care of them and retain them, or bring in more that are just like them. The second one would be technology. Where were we at for COVID? Were we prepared? Did we have the ability to say, okay, we're going to distance learn and everybody's going to have the same access to the internet. Everybody's going to have the same access to computers, all of that. So technology, I think, is a really big deal in today's world. With that said, the parental and community involvement, I think, needs to be a priority. If we go to the big box stores and we buy the big box and we don't support local, we're going to have our locals close up. If we have our locals close up, then there goes our community, there goes our parental involvement, there goes our students. If a parent is going to have to move for a job because all the community stuff is gone. So that's a big thing too. With that is the student enrollment as well. That would be my fourth priority. Making sure that we have the offerings, that we attract, that we as communities let people know, how great we are, and as Terry said too, get that out in the technology so people really know what we're all about. And budgeting and funding. So with everything that's going on, we'll want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on all of our monies coming in and monies going out.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan, priorities.
Some of the priorities that we need to, that we're working on and need to continue working on, again, as others have said, teacher retention, especially now more than ever. We have the tools in place as a district to be able to understand why we've lost some teachers, and so we can move forward with that and do a much better job of staying on top of that as we move forward. Obviously, budgetary issues, those are ongoing, especially now. Trying to utilize our district taxpayers best we can without going too far, but also keeping everything as up to date and top notch within the building as we can, whether it be technology, classrooms, the building itself. Tying into the budget really is, as Terry said, marketing. I felt for a long time that we can always do better marketing our district. We have a pretty great district. We just need to be able to get the word out there. There's so many ways to do this, but as a small district, it is hard to tackle a lot of those because of the ties that we have, budgetary, staff-wise, time-wise, whatever. I mean, marketing is a full-time thing, and it's hard to do to get it the way you want it to. And finally, just student achievement. That should never be ending. We should always be making that a priority, because that's what we are ultimately here for, is to provide the kids with the best education that they can get and have them as prepared as possible for the real world.
Thanks, Dan. Jennifer.
I would say my top 3 priorities would be budget, to make sure that it stays stable, and that our educators, we secure to always have good educators here. And then also the education level. A big thing that I worry about is after COVID, that there's kids that fell through the cracks, that there's kids out there that don't have that coming to school, they don't have that interaction as much as they did, and we don't want any of them to fall through the cracks, that they would fall behind or miss out on something during COVID. So that's a big one.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nancy, your priorities.
Tammy, I agree with you with the broken record thing, but that's okay. It's nice to know we're all on the same page. I agree. It's that we're talking 5 years out, and of course this is never ending. It's the same issues we've had for the last 15 and 20, 100 years, and it'll go on forever. And it's always fiscal and financial and being fiscally responsible. But there's one point, the teacher retention thing. You know, they're talking about so many teachers are retiring, and then they have the whole burden of the COVID thing. And I am every minute and every day amazed at what these teachers are taking on. I'm talking to teachers. My daughter-in-law is a 2nd grade teacher, and she's married to my son, who stays home with the kids, and then he substitutes also. So we have teachers there, and talking to them, which we have since last March, and they're working twice as hard as they ever have in their career, and they're feeling every pain and every ounce of every family and every kid. And the spectrum of how widespread they are is even more massive, because in a classroom, when you can try to see and meet the needs of these kids, or parents are sending notes, when you're trying to do it distantly, it's amazing what they're doing. And then on top of it, the other piece that came in, which is interesting, is my daughter is a college professor, and her husband is a child psychologist, and he said what has come up that he has seen in the last 4 or 5 months that we're missing is the mental health issues of kids that normally are pretty resilient and don't see it, are starting to feel they're taking on this whole COVID thing as their responsibility to fix it. If somebody gets sick or happens to get it, they're just drenched in guilt, and not of, like, they think they're going to spread it, or it's their fault that they have it, or they're going to give it to a family member. And it's just fascinating listening to him talk about it. And then he said, but he's never sure if that's communicated to teachers, to staff, to parents, because they are talking to him as a doctor and a therapist. And so we've had many conversations about it. And so what I'm thinking is a real priority that's going to go on for the next year, the next 2 or 3 years, is that if we're all paying attention in this teacher retention and supporting our teachers, if we're paying attention to these children that might have gotten lost, like Jennifer just referred to, or fallen through the cracks. So I just think it's going to be, that's a high priority, is just to support and to pay attention and be aware. And the teachers are really struggling too with their extra burden. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I always try to keep my comments to a minimum, but I have to tell you guys that I'm teaching my 7th graders about foreshadowing right now. And so any 7th grade parents listening, I have one sitting here, hints toward what's coming in the future. You guys have done a magnificent job of setting up the rest of my questions for the night. I hope you're prepared to go into more detail on many of these priorities. So both things we had ready and things that people have been emailing me. Great lesson. I can't imagine my students are listening, but a great lesson in foreshadowing here. So with that said, here we go. Now we get to get in depth. Our next question is this: with anticipated problems from state aid coming because of the budget concerns at the state level, along with our current deficit spending in the district, budgets are always under review every year, areas that can be trimmed. How do you think the district can address this potential difficulty over the next few years? Lauren, I believe it is your turn to go first on this one.
Well, financing can always be a challenge. There's always a need for more money, or there's always a desire for more money. But I think that there's some hard decisions that have to be made. And that's where the school board comes in, along with the administration, to make those decisions that will not hurt the education of our students, but yet trim that budget to fit into the existing revenue side. And that can become a challenge. And it takes time, it takes due diligence, but with creative thinking and with the minds of all the school board members, I'm sure that their solutions can be reached. Maybe it's going to have to be a little bit larger class size for a few years. Maybe we're going to have to trim certain areas that we don't really want to. We need them all now, and they're not saying that we don't need them in the future, but some hard decisions are going to have to be made. And that's a question that I can't give you specifics today, because all of those decisions need a lot of research, and you have to make the right decision, and you don't do that on the spur of the moment. And so it takes research to make that decision, and I think that the school board can and will, if it comes to that, will make that wise decision.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
As Lauren stated, that's not something you can just pick out of the air and make a decision without having all the facts. But one thing in all of the budgeting and finance work that I've done, we always look at overhead. Now, our students are the most important thing here. That's why we're here. So to cut anything that has to do with them should be very, very thought about, very long and very hard. Let's look at overhead. Is there something that doesn't directly touch or affect them that maybe we can take a deep dive into? But anything that has to do directly with our children, I think we need to protect that as faithfully as we can. So.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Dan?
How to address this? Going into the 2020-2021 school year, we cut little over $160,000 out of our budget without touching programming. That is obviously an issue that we don't want to have to touch. We've tried to get down to bare bones on everything that we can. There were surveys that had gone out in 2016 and 18, and in which the communities were able to address their priorities, or what they felt were priorities that we should work within. I believe that we have followed those to the best of our ability. Again, with those cuts, there's always places you can probably find more to cut. Ultimate goal is to not get into your classrooms if you don't have to. And this is, we're not dealing with a private sector business here. We can't just raise the rates to try to increase that revenue. So we do have to look at other options, as the cuts we've done, referendums. We're not alone out there. Other districts are dealing with the same problems, and to kind of sell the referendum here. No matter where you go, you run into that as a taxpayer. It's just a part of living in a school district. You have to have faith in your administration and your board to continue to make the best financial decisions that they can. And like I said, we're trying to get there. I think we are getting there. We're headed in the right direction, but like anything, it does take time. So.
Thank you, Dan. Jennifer?
I don't think that I can come up here in 6-7 minutes and come up with an answer to that, because I'm 100% positive that our past school board, present school board, have all thought hard about where you can cut a budget. You can't cut a teacher's budget so that you don't have good educators to our students. You can't turn the lights off at a certain time so that there's no lights in classrooms. I mean, I think that, I truly believe that our past school board and present school board has looked at a lot of things, and I just know that I will go, if elected, I would go into the next board and hear what they've thought of in the past and think of what we can do in the future. And if there's new board members, maybe there's new ideas that will come to light, but it's a difficult thing, but we can't take away from our kids.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nancy?
Well, that's the tough one. That's out there forever and ever. It has to be the hardest thing that you do on the board, is try to figure out the whole fiscal budget. In adding to what everybody else said, it's very difficult, of course, but there was, maybe this is what Terry referred to earlier about marketing and communication with the district and the community. There's a whole lot of people in this area in the school district, that businesses, that I have seen that will put together money and programs and have these fundraisers and for just certain things. And I'm always so amazed and so proud of them for doing that. And then you see parents sending, pens and pencils and crayons and Kleenex to the classrooms because they're all just everybody's trying to pitch in. But now that, like this latest referendum, I was, reading it, and they talk about when you have to phrase it, the phraseology is like a per pupil dollar, or so much money per pupil, and that's how much it has to come up to meet the needs. It's a phrase that's meant to accommodate or to explain how much money that we need to keep operating and keep paying teachers. And so somehow, as to get the community involved or understood and to support, okaying that referendum and paying that extra money, you have to tell them that it's not like every child is going to get some money, or the money it's for kitchen utilities and for staff and for the cooks and the janitors and the custodial staff, the teachers, the administrators. All that money is spread around. It's this big pot. So somehow we have to have a buy-in, I guess, from the community and the public that this money is for the big whole of the whole community. And the bottom line is it does go to the kids because it's all to support them. So, thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Terry?
This is one area that, if elected, that I'm going to have to take some classes in or something as far as school finance, because I am not going to come up here and speak to people in our school district and the taxpayers and say that this is what we should do, because I have a lot to learn. That being said, I agree with what people have said about student programming and how important that is, and retaining our staff. And at the same time, I think our past boards have done a good job at trying to be fiscally responsible. But I also think that sometimes there are people that we work with that have a lot of really good ideas. So it might be interesting to sit down with some, or have, here's another committee thing, but a lot of times teachers have some ideas about, putting it out there and just say, where do you think we could make some cuts? Where do you, or be more fiscally responsible, if you want to word it that way, just to get a little bit more input and another set of eyes on things, because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, and you don't know a lot of things that are going on. But it's a challenge. I think getting more students in our district would be helpful, because the more kids you have, the more money that's coming into our district. So I think it's going to be really important to focus on that. But again, no one wants to cut anything, and so I think it's just a matter of trying to be very responsible with the money that we have, and then having to make some of those hard decisions. So.
Thank you, Terry. Our next question. Our students are consistently given the message that they need to strive for their best in all things, not just to settle for doing the minimum in order to get by. Do you feel that this school district's programs and actions match those expectations in what it offers our students, staff, and community? I gave you a minute to process there. That was quite-
Will you repeat it,
I can
please?
repeat it, absolutely. Our students are consistently given the message they need to strive for their best in everything, not to settle for doing the minimum just in order to get by. Do you think this school district's programs and actions match those expectations in what we offer our students, staff, and community? That was a mouthful. Tammy, you get to lead the way on this one.
First off, I want to say I agree wholeheartedly with not allowing the students to just do what they can to get by. It's a big key point in our house. You do your best at everything. Where I see the school district could has opportunity to improve would be if we expect, for example, a student to turn an assignment in on a Tuesday. We should expect the teacher to have it graded by a certain day. With that being said, that expectation is in one of our handbooks. And so we need the accountability if that's not happening. We need accountability from top down. So I would say we do a very good job at pumping up our students, pushing our students. I feel we can do a better job of pushing. Again, the staff is very, very overworked, very crazy in these times that I understand, as are our students. So if we still expect them to do their best, I think we should hold our district, our administrators, and our staff to do their best as well.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan?
My short answer, based on the way we currently sit, is yes. I feel that we do match those. That being said, I believe we have plenty of room for improvement. We've taken, as far as the students and staff go, we've taken some steps with the new science rooms, the new shop. Those are facilities, programs that I think will help those students get to that next level where we'd like to see them be. Staff, to follow up with Tammy's comment, yes, there's always expectations, and as staff knows, there'll always be more expectations of what they're asked to do. And community-wise, I think we can do more. I believe that we have some opportunities to get community businesses involved with our district. I currently serve on the CTE board, and of course we haven't been able to meet recently, but they're always throwing out ideas on things that we should be doing with community businesses, whether it be some form of work study type of thing, or making a lot of these things more accessible to the students. Especially the trades, there's shortage of jobs big time there, and I don't know that a lot of the students realize just how good of jobs those actually can be. So we need to get involved with the community more to open up those avenues for those students.
Thank you, Dan. Jennifer?
As a parent, I find that I tell my kids, if you always try your best, then you can never wonder if you could do better. Do we do our best here? We do. Could we do better? Of course. Just one thing, and I don't mean to preach on it, but one thing that we live in, I don't want to say rural because we have little towns, but we live in a rural area. Farming is huge, and I hear the stories of my husband who went to school here, and the days when they took the trucks out and they went to the fields to the farmers, and they got the corn and they did the corn drive, And I'd really like to somehow see our school go back a little bit in time and do it where these kids are getting educated from the farmers, not just asking for some corn, maybe putting a little bit of work into it. I think it would help. I mean, we need to keep our farmers around here. If we don't keep our farmers around here, we lose part of our community, so.
All right, thank you. Nancy?
I'm going to speak just through, I'm not as familiar with the high school, except for the kids that I've gone through that I've met. But in terms of the elementary school, volunteering there the last few years, I just really see those teachers are incredible. Bottom line, it is amazing, every single one. Every child is attended to in every classroom that we were in, and if it's possible, it would be great to have a position, a volunteer coordinator that could coordinate volunteer services. They're saying that that's like one of the biggest things going on in society right now. People like my age, I retired a little early, but maybe the boomers that are available to come in and help. And there's a lot of smart, knowledgeable, caring people that are willing to do it. They're just not quite sure how to get involved. My husband happened to get involved at the volunteer program at the elementary school, and I retired, and he said, "You have to do this with me. You've been at school for years. You love this." So as we went in just to read with second graders, a few weeks later we were also working in a kindergarten classroom. And then as the year progressed, we were mentoring individual kids. We were tutoring 5th grade math, 4th grade programs. And so we had made it 2 days a week that we were going. And I'm pretty sure it was more fulfilling for us than it was for the kids even. But that was our way of seeing the teachers and how they work with these kids. And I just never see one student that's left aside or left alone or not recognized. And so it's kind of a shout out to the staff there, but they're incredible. So.
Terry?
I agree with Nancy. It is really, it's a lot easier to make sure that the needs of the kids in the elementary are met because you have that class all day long and you in the normal year. But and it's great. But I think what happens is when the kids come over here, things change, and it seems to be. I know it's frustrating for staff because I always hear, I would hear them say, we're doing everything. I don't know why this kid won't do this. I'm trying to help them. I give them all of these things, and they just don't want to. And I think what happens is some of the kids that have been struggling in the elementary come over here and they're still struggling again, and it might be academically, socially, emotionally, or whatever those needs are. But it's different here. Teachers don't have that same classroom all the time. So I think we need to make a concerted effort to try to meet the needs of those children that come over here and try to take that off the teachers' plates because like I said, it's different here, but the needs are still there. And so that's just something that I'm really passionate about, and I think we need to keep looking at ways to do that and to have the kids want to strive to do better and just say, well, if you get 30 points in my class, you'll get a D, and they're just like, yes, that's what I want. And so how do we make that mindset change? How do we get them to want to do more? It's easy for the kids that are high achievers or school's easy for, but then you have that other group of children. How can we help staff, help teachers, help parents to help the kids that fall through those cracks? It's a passion of mine, so I would like to see that.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren, you are up next.
That was a long question, Mark, and I don't think I got it all written down, but as I understand it, it's how do we give our students the attitude to strive to be the best? And I think it starts first with the students themselves. They need to have the attitude that they want to be the best. And I think that we have a staff here that encourages that. And like I say, I live west of town, and as I drive into town on Highway 30, I see the parking lot here of the secondary education building. And many times after hours, Saturdays, Sundays, mornings, early mornings, there's cars parked here. And that tells me that our staff is interested and concerned about the students that we have here. And so I think the staff is doing their part to encourage those students to be their best. And I think the third thing that needs to be emphasized is the community needs to support the students when they interact with them out in the community. And as I look at it, it's a team approach. The whole team needs to encourage the students and the staff to be the best and not just get by.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, that was a really tough question. So I got a much easier one, he says sarcastically. Well, it's something that many of you referred to about with your priorities. So one of the mantras here at NRHEG in recent years has been the desire to attract and retain quality educators. But that's been a big problem over the last decade. We've had large turnover among our teachers and paras for various reasons. What can this district do to change that trend and indeed not just attract but retain those quality educators in our buildings? Dan.
Like any job, trying to attract and retain, always presents various challenges. As Mark said, we've had some turnover for various reasons. Earlier I alluded, we have a tool now to track that better, so we have a better feel for why people are leaving. In order to bring them in and keep them, we need to continue showing them that they do have full support of administration, board, community, parents, everybody involved. This is a teamwork deal here. They're not on their own. Like I said, we need to just continue to support them. Teachers, paras, teachers, hourly workers, they're under tough times right now with everything that we're going through. Parents are finding out just what it is that you guys do have to deal with because they're thrust into that role of teaching now as well. So, and having sat in on 2 negotiations, well aware of what you guys need, and we need to be here to give you as much of that as we can.
Thank you, Dan. Jennifer.
Not knowing all of the extent of what the board has did, I guess my things would be to ask any teacher or staff member that's leaving why they're leaving, in hopes that they'd be honest, and ask other districts that we see that are keeping their people and what they're doing to be able to keep their staff. And ask the ones that are leaving what could be done, and if so, do those things to keep them.
All right, thank you. Nancy?
Well, it's nothing new to the district. We all know that. It's a universal problem. And of course, exit interviews are crucial, and surveys. And even to extend that, I know it's more difficult to get that information back, but even 6 months out and a year out, to again survey and have another interview and just say what is it and why, and But what I've learned is that it's not that teachers are leaving our district to go to another district or to get another $2,000 a year. They're leaving the profession. And that's the hardest part. And it's just, and so many people are retiring right now. It's just like, I said, the largest group of teachers in the history of our country have now hit that baby boom stage where they're retiring. So I think it's a trend. It is a universal trend across the nation. So all I can say is that the most you can do is to be a collective and to support these teachers and to listen to them and let them have a voice, because they are some smart people. They really know what they're doing. And they're the ones that are in the classroom every day. So from administrators all the way down through everybody in the school, there has to be great communication and amazing support.
Thank you, Nancy. Terry?
I'd like to say too that what Nancy said is correct. Teachers aren't just leaving our district, they're leaving the profession. Some of the things that we have here, we have a mentoring program that is very important for teachers. When you talk about the millennial group of teachers, they're very big on that. Anybody that's applying for a job here and that interviews, 9 times out of 10 they ask, what kind of a mentoring program do you have, what kind of teacher support do you have, and things like that. So we need to make sure that we have a strong mentoring program. Teachers want this positive feedback, and I know time is everything. I mean, you can sit here and talk about all these wonderful things, that then when the rubber hits the road, you know, where do you find all this time? But another thing, I think we can all give more positive feedback to our new teachers and our staff that are more seasoned. I think something that we need to do is try to get an incentive plan in place so that when our older seasoned teachers do retire, that we get them to give us that information earlier so that the principals can get out and get the job online so that the new teachers know that there's going to be an opening, because time is the most important factor there. Those kids want a job, and the sooner that we can interview them and interview the cream of the crop at the beginning, the better. So, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren?
Well, I think, as Dan mentioned, that it's a challenge in any business to attract and retain the staff. But I think there are a few things that can be done here at the school, and that is that the staff needs to be showing support from the administration and the community. And they need to be encouraged to work together as a team with the rest of the staff members. And I think if they feel that they're part of the team and that they're one of many that hold the whole unit together, they'll feel more like staying in the district. And we need to offer encouragement in any way possible from the school board, administration, community, and fellow staff members. But if they do decide to leave, whether it be retirement, as Nancy mentioned, there isn't much we can do, and we can be thankful that they have served the school district up until their retirement years. Jennifer also mentioned to do exit interviews, and I think we can learn a lot from an exit interview. Why did they leave? Was it something that there wasn't offered here that they needed? And if there is, we can learn from that exit interview that there is a need that we're not fulfilling to the existing staff members. So I think if we try some of those things, we can maybe learn, and hopefully we can retain and attract more of the top quality educators that are out there.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
My view on this is going to be from the outside looking in. I'm not a school board member yet. Or have I been a teacher, but I've been, in the school system with the PTO and with my kids going through it. But in the 13 years that I've been in this district, watching my kids go from preschool all the way now till 11th grade, there's been a change in morale of the staff even before COVID hit, from what I've seen, And Terry alluded to it too. It's just a transition from the elementary, and then when you get here to the junior high and the high school, it's a change. So what I can say is I'm sure you do exit interviews. I'm sure you speak. I'm sure you find out the long-term plan before you hire a new teacher. But what I could offer would be basically ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to listen and to get the teachers involved. You know, what do you need? What do you need from the community? What do you need from the students? What do you need from the administration to make your job better, to make you stay, to have us keep you as one of those valued educators?
Thank you, Tammy. Throughout the night, we've been kind of sprinkling in some things that we've gotten from people emailing, and as we head down, I have a few more questions here. Some things that we've received from people that they kind of want some insight from you guys. And some of this first one is one that some of you have kind of alluded to a little bit at times, but communication, social media, how NRHEG can possibly, should we expand in those areas? How would we do that? You know, how do you manage those types of accounts? And then also, you know, in conjunction with that, how do we continue to make information available to the general public who perhaps are not on social media, to keep everybody involved in knowing everything that's going on, no matter how they receive their information? Jennifer, you get to lead off on this one.
I do feel that Facebook is huge. It's free and it gets out to a lot of people. But I work in a job where I see a lot of elderly, and they're not. There are some techie grandparents out there, but there are some that aren't. And to forget them or not let them know things, that's huge. Because a lot of times they're one of the bigger supporters. And I feel for newspapers, because if we all move to social media and we all move to Facebook and Twitter and all that, that leaves our newspapers with nothing. So I think it is huge that and I think kids enjoy it too. I mean, I know kids love seeing something up on Facebook with their picture, but I really think kids would enjoy seeing their face in the newspaper, and people seeing that and seeing things that are going on. So trying to find a balance between them.
All right, thank you. Nancy?
Well, I believe you can't have too much communication, that's for sure. Well, the social media piece, the IT and social media, we're halfway there. We're doing distant learning, so half the families, or every family that's involved in the school district, is already getting social media updates, communication, information. I think the disconnect comes when you no longer have kids in school, because you always get those, you get the information, kids are bringing it home, the packets, they're talking, the teachers, the conferences, everything. And the minute your kid turns 19 and they're gone, you're like, wow, wonder what's going on at school. And you hear nothing. Once in a while, at least we have the superintendent's letter in the paper, because that's the closest stuff I get if I don't make it a point to go online and read about the district, except when I'm at school, then I learn a lot. So I think that disconnect is, you don't have kids in school, how do you get the community to know what's going on and to feel involved? And so you need to, it must be my mass communications degree, we need to have a newsletter. We need to have a what's going on with the school. It's not that expensive. It can be done. You could have, and that's where you can have staff contribute, and everybody that works for the district, and students at every grade level. A simple little newsletter, print it out once every couple weeks, and then pass it out to businesses. It's not that much to ask, and it's not that expensive. But then you can put it in the care centers and the businesses around the communities, and everybody loves to have it, and all of a sudden they just know the newsletter's coming out. So it is, anyway, that little disconnect part about no kids in school and we have to get it out there. Just a suggestion.
Thanks, Nancy. Terry?
I was going to say what she said, pretty much exactly. But I do think that the social media piece, if we could get on the Twitter and Facebook and have someone, it could be somebody that's retired, that is, you know, pretty savvy with that piece, that could work in conjunction with the district office to get big items out there. I think it's better for it to things to come from the school and flood social media with all the good that's going on. And if that voice is loud, it kind of drowns out everything else. I think that to piggyback on the newsletter, I think that would be great. There could be just a little committee at the school of kids that's what they want to do in the high school and in the elementary, kind of going back to the what were those days when you had the student council type of a thing, or just somebody at that level that would like to do that writing and put that little newspaper together and put it in those places. I also think it should be given to the newspaper to give them the opportunity to publish it, so we're not taking away from them. But I think it's important to talk about the good things that are happening at school in all the different areas. And I also think that maybe 2 to 4 times a year that we should have some kind of a gathering at the schools. I don't know what for or what that would be, but a fall school kickoff, something. We could work with the PTO, and if you have food, they will come. And so I don't. Well, it's the truth. But if there's some way that we could just get the community here, and I know it's not going to happen now with COVID, but it could be a multitude of different things. But if we get them food and get them here and just expand on that sense of community, I think that would be a really good thing.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren?
Well, social media has become an important part of a lot of people's lives, but there are some that haven't subscribed to that yet. And so if we can use like Facebook for whatever, it would be an excellent opportunity. But one of the things that I've recently learned is that on the school website has a phenomenal amount of information on it. And I don't know if that's ever been promoted to the extent that it should be, because it has a lot of information on it, and people that want to keep up with the school district, that's an excellent site to use. And as Nancy and Terry mentioned, not everybody is on social media or has access to the website. So maybe we need to have them, if they're interested in the school and information from the school, maybe they need to be they contact the school, and there needs to be a quarterly newsletter that keeps them informed, because they too need to be informed, even though they don't have internet. And I think there's ways, maybe it doesn't have to be quarterly, I'm not sure what the sequence needs to be, but we can communicate with them. There still is snail mail, and they can be communicated with. So those would be my ideas about communicating to the people of our district.
Thanks, Lauren. Tammy?
Well, as someone who gets probably about 500 emails a day, my biggest thing with the communication piece of it is bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. And if you send an email or you send a newsletter, you bullet point it. If you're going to send an email, send a link that will take you to the school website so you can read more about it if that particular item is something that interests you. I think the newsletter is great. Could it be a class for those kids who might want to go into journalism or marketing or something like that? Could we make it part of a class that maybe they have a school Facebook, obviously monitored, because who knows what would go on it, but they could do that. They could see what type of communication. They could do a couple interviews, make sure you're including the elementary as well as the high school, as well as administration. Get all that in there. And maybe when we get to have Farm and City Days or Ellendale Days, or when Geneva has their fireman thing, maybe you just have a volunteer about the school district set out a booth and pass out information or kind of, market the school at those type of events, because there's a lot of kids in Geneva and Clarks Grove and those areas that don't go here, that could very well be able to be enrolled here with busing and stuff. So community signs, if we do a newsletter, put those at the Lerbergs and the Wagners and at the post office in Geneva and all of those types of places. It says if you want a newsletter, call and we'll put you on a mailing list, instead of just sending out a mass mailing that maybe some people won't read or won't want. So those would be ways that I could see communication and marketing could be handled.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan?
You would get an emphatic yes for me in terms of the social media presence. I don't feel there's any better way of advertising out there right now, aside from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Getting word out to the general public. I think we do a fairly decent job right now. Dr. Carlson puts a letter every month in the paper. That said, I know that not everybody either gets it or reads it, but he does put it out there. We have things available. Like a lot of the stuff, we can always do more too. The newsletter ideas are wonderful. There are so many ways to get information out to the public, whether they have kids in the school or not. And I believe we need to look into each and every one of those possible ways, because we can always do better at this. That is our one selling point. I mean, that is how we can sell our district to the neighboring districts, the kids that we already have here, is by going through communications this way. So.
Thank you, Dan. Another question that was emailed in. Do you have a vision for getting citizens of all our communities and the surrounding area more involved? And in conjunction with that, how important is it to have members from all of our communities as part of our school board? Is there a way to do that, or is that something that we need to be concerned about? Nancy?
Oh, no.
You can make some notes.
For some reason, I thought Jennifer was up.
I actually just write down the question. That's as far as I get. A vision for getting citizens involved. Again, see, I'm going to go right back to where I was, where that volunteer coordinator, or at least the volunteer program. There's people that I have run into that, I'll start chattering about, because it's always so fun to work with these students, and we'll start talking about it. And I said, gosh, you should volunteer and go up to the school. And they're never quite sure how. And then they seem interested, and they want to volunteer, and then I run into them again, and they're like, oh, yeah, I never went over there. And I go, just go to the school. So somehow citizens could get more involved if they knew. I think we're back to the newsletter and communication again. And all members part of the school board. I agree. I kind of mentioned it earlier. We were talking about all the cities and towns and counties, and working in Waseca County as the emergency management director, we worked with, of course, you work with public safety, you work with public health, but we don't just keep it to that county, because you have to rely on the other ones. And so, of course, we worked with public safety from Steele County and a little from Freeborn County, and we were a group of the emergency managers of the whole southern and southeastern part of the state. And so that makes sense to me. But what am I trying to say? We have to keep them working together all the time. So we need representation on the board from all the different areas that we live in. And then we do, and I say, sometimes I've heard, I think the elementary school feels like they get left out, and Ellendale gets left out because really a lot of energy and a lot of activity comes out of the high school because of the activities, and it's twice as many students and a larger population in New Richland than the other areas. And so sometimes I think they feel forgotten. I have heard that, and that's part of the reason I'm running. It's the other part. It's like, okay, I'm here to represent the other half, and it's really important to keep both counties working together. And you call 911 for an emergency here, you're going to get Waseca Police or Waseca County or the New Richland Police, but you call 911 in Ellendale, and you've got their ambulance crews, and my time is up. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Terry?
Well, I think this piggybacks on the communication piece. I think the more we can communicate some of the needs of the schools and volunteers that we need and things like that, that would be good. I think it would be nice to have more volunteers in the elementary, but I think to start the volunteer program here at the secondary school would be a good thing too, because not only do they sit and read with the kids, but they can help do some of the secretarial jobs, if you will, for the teachers, and so their prep time could be used to do something else other than run off copies. So a lot of volunteers come to the elementary to run copies and organize things for the teacher, do things. They might be able to put up a bulletin board for you or something like that. So there's a lot of things that they could do to free up your time. As far as members from all communities, I'm a huge proponent of that. That's why I'm running. I think we need representation from every area. I wish there were people from Geneva that were running for the school board. And I wish there was a way that we would say on our board there's 2 from Geneva, 2 from Allendale, 2 from Heartland, 2 from New Richland, or something like that, so that there's equal representation, so no area is left out.
Thank you, Terry. Lauren?
Getting people involved is a challenge because everyone is busy. Their schedules are all full. But if they see a reason, or they see a usefulness, or they see a desire to become involved, they will be involved. And what that activity is varies with each individual. So to say that there are certain things that could work to get everybody involved, it's not going to happen. We need to involve the people that see a benefit to their involvement in the community. As far as members from the different communities, I believe a good school board member represents the district. It's not a school board member of New Richland. It's not a school board member of Allendale or Geneva or Heartland. It's a school board member of New Richland, Heartland, Allendale, Geneva School District. And I think I could do that. I can represent people of all the towns that are a part of our district. And to me, that's a sign of a good school board member that represents everyone's interest and not just a certain area or a certain individual's desires.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
Short answer is yes, I believe representation from all communities should be a goal of the school board and of the district. So although we are all one district, all of those communities aren't fully represented, because if you're a New Richland person on the school board, do you know the concerns of the busing situation that the Clarks Grove, Heartland, and Geneva people? No. Are you there talking to them? Are you intermixing it at, do all of those people come up to New Richland to go to eat, or do you go down there? Are you really talking with every member? Not every member, that's an exaggeration. Every representation of every community throughout the district. So I would say we should have spread representation to make sure that we are doing our best for every student, no matter where they're residing.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan?
I agree that representation from all 4 communities is beneficial. I've long felt that there still remains a little bit of a divide between the communities of, as it pertains to New Richland, Heartland, and Ellendale, Geneva. There's still some of the old guard that looks at them as two separate entities, and we're not. I mean, we haven't been technically since 1994. So we are one, but yet we're such a large district that it absolutely benefits to have representation everywhere. Getting citizens involved, getting volunteers is a challenge in general. Having been on the basketball boosters for a few years now, we're constantly trying to find coaches, people that will help with the tournaments. All you can really do, honestly, is just get the information out to them, what you're looking for, why this is a benefit. Goes back to the marketing piece. It absolutely, is the best way to get that out there. You can just hope that you get as much information to them and make it as appealing as possible so that they understand that, hey, these are some pretty good things to be involved in and be a part of. So.
Thanks, Dan. Jennifer?
I like the idea. I love the idea. If we could have members from every area, from Geneva, from Heartland. I currently serve on the Waseca County Fair Board, and we don't look like, I don't want to say this, but we would love to have people from every angle of Waseca County on the Fair Board, because your board is meant to be a wide variety. We've been pretty lucky, and we do get representation from different angles of the county. How we could do that with our school board, it would have to be passed. The problem is, what would happen when you have nobody in Heartland that wants to come up and represent Heartland? You don't want an empty board seat, and you can't force people, but it would be a great idea.
Thank you, Jennifer. I got one more question that has come in, and then after that, we'll have final thoughts. So we're nearing the end here, the home stretch, the light at the end of the tunnel, and every other metaphor I can possibly think of. So the last question before we get to your closing statements is, if you are elected to the school board, how will you become more involved in the district, and how will you find ways to make informed decisions that impact both of our school sites? Terry, I believe you are up first on this one.
How would I be more involved? I would take the time to, I always hear teachers saying that we want the board to be at the schools, so I would be visible at the schools and talk with teachers and support staff and administration about the things that are happening at the school. I'm comfortable in the school building because of my background, so that would be fun for me. But the other thing about being an informed decision maker, I like to hear all the facts. I'm a lifelong learner, so I would read things and do research to make sure that I would be making an informed decision and making decisions that are fiscally responsible, as well as decisions that reflect everyone in our district and that would be in the best interests of our students and their success.
Terry? Lauren?
Well, if I were to be elected to the school board, I would become more involved in school activities. with my wife retiring from the school, we haven't been involved with as many activities, but it becomes part of the job to become visible and to see what's going on in the school itself. And how could I make better decisions? I guess I'd be more than happy to entertain any contact, whether it be with phone, mail, in person, whatever, of any concern that anybody in the district has that needs to be addressed by the school board. Because that's how the school board members learn what the community needs, is by hearing from the members of our district. My ears would always be open, and I would be willing to hear what your opinion is, even though it may not be what the board decides. It would still be presented at the board, because I would carry your information to the board.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
So if elected, becoming more involved. Three children in high school with sports, faith formation teacher, PTO volunteer. They're going to start asking me to leave pretty soon. So I would become more involved just by being here, being available, being open and honest with everyone. As far as making informed decisions, really good at asking questions. If I don't understand something, I'm going to ask a question. I'm not afraid to give my opinion. I'm not afraid to hear your opinion if it differs from mine. Research is a big thing. The collaboration with the other board members, collaboration with teachers and staff, collaboration with students and parents. So that all is going to make an informed decision when you listen to every single stakeholder in every single facet.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan?
This presented a little bit of a difficulty in the question for me. How to be more involved in the district. As board members, we always can be more visible within the school walls. I know, many teachers have asked if we would, or I shouldn't say they've asked, they've opened their classroom to us to come in and sit down. For 3 years, I've said I need to do that. I would like to go in and sit in, and not because of my kids, just because. Unfortunately, we don't always have the time as a board member, because most of us have other jobs that pull at us at the times when it would be beneficial to be in the classroom to visit with those teachers. In a normal year, you'd find me at pretty much any school function. So I'm extremely visible. And as my kids have abused the privilege, I can be reached at the drop of a hat and be at the school as soon as needed. Learning more about what's going on with the school, if you're on the board, and getting more informed, every day is learning when it comes to being on the board. There's things that we're encountering now after 4 years that I haven't seen yet. It's never ending, the stuff that we learn, because we're not here every day to absorb it as the staff is. So there's things that come up that wow, okay, now how do we tackle this? All you can do is ask the questions and try to get involved as best you can that way.
Thanks, Chad. Jennifer?
How I would become more involved with the district, I would ask questions of teachers, of staff, of students, and of our community members. And making good decisions would be by always educating myself, always reaching for answers, and looking into things. One thing I think would be a great thing to add is to always be available at conferences. Teachers are available for the students, but how about having the board members be available for the students, the parents, the teachers? So,
Thank you, Jennifer. Nancy?
Jennifer, great idea. I like that. Visual schools, I will continue to volunteer in an elementary school because it just gets so much joy out of it, and I think I learn more than the kids do. But another thing is to be able to be available and to respond to emails, and beware the squeaky wheel, because the most outspoken and the loudest, and I don't want to use the word bully, I don't like that. But sometimes you have loud, outspoken, and you think they're speaking for the majority, and they are not. And you have to be observant and open-minded and understand and objective, and that's just crucial in that role. And one more thing quickly is I think that to be more involved, I'm involved in the elementary school, and even outside of the school board, I'm thinking I worked for years and years in schools and trained in hundreds of schools with administrations across the state. I would love to go back into the classrooms, especially at the high school level, and talk about law enforcement and juvenile justice and school safety and all of those things, and it has brought that up again tonight. I haven't done it in years, and I loved that, and kids like it too, and that's a way to be involved.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, we have an opportunity now just to, if you have a closing statement you'd like to make before we wrap it up for the evening. And we're on Lauren to start off for this final round.
Thank you, Mark. And once again, I'd like to thank the Education Association for the opportunity to present the ideas that have been presented tonight. And there's been a lot of good ideas that have been presented by all the people here tonight. We've talked about our strengths. We've talked about our challenges. We've talked about priorities, deficits, communications, vision, involvement, a lot of different things. And I know none of these are new. They've probably been the same ones for years and years and years. This community has given me my education. I would appreciate the opportunity to give back to this community for what it has given to me. It has provided me with the skills that I've needed to get this far in life. I'd like to call it successfully. And I think we need to provide that opportunity to the students that attend this school district. Like I said, it would be a privilege and an honor for me to give back to the community what it has given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Tammy?
Thank you, everyone who tuned in and listened to this forum. I hope you caught a couple of the ideas that everyone gave. Very, very good thoughts going, a lot of good communication. What I would like to make sure that everyone knows is that your voice is my mission. I want to be a representative for every community. I want to be able to speak for every stakeholder, student, parent, teacher, staff, community member, taxpayer. In all of those stakeholders all have a voice, and I'm here to make sure that it at least gets heard.
Thank you, Tammy. Dan?
I'd like to thank the Education Association for putting this on this evening. As a board member in this district, as with many small districts, we are in the enviable position of, knowing our employees, the staff, on a much closer level than what we may see in large districts. There's a definite tightrope that you have to walk of being friends with the staff and also knowing that they work with you, for you, however you'd like to phrase that. It is a balancing act. As three of us here have known the last couple of contracts, you do have to keep that professionalism, and that is hard to do when your friends sitting across the table from your friends. I can do that. I've proven that I can do that. We still have a lot of work to do in our district with many different aspects, and I want to do it. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm more than willing to jump in on whatever is needed, and we'll continue to hold that idea. I have an open ear to anybody's needs, no matter how big or small, or even if there's anything that we can do about it as a board. But I'm always happy to take calls, comments, direct them wherever they may need to go, or just be a voice or someone to sound off to. So, again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and hope everyone gets out and votes.
Jennifer?
I'd like to thank Mr. Domeyer, Mrs. Bentley, Sue, Dale, Dave, and any other ones that helped put this together tonight. For this school board election, I'm running against 6 other individuals for 3 board seats. Our community has a difficult choice between some very highly qualified candidates. I truly feel lucky to live in a community that values our children and their education as well as so many others do. I'd like to share a quote with you from Christine Gergmore. Education is the foundation upon which we build our future. I hope to be one of the 3 people elected to serve our community. I believe that I can jump on that school board train and serve this community well. I encourage you all to get out and vote this year, because remember, your vote matters. And I'd like to leave you with a quote from Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nancy?
A little more philosophical closing. I have worked as a public servant for 3 decades. At the local level as a school police officer, at the county level as an emergency management director, and at the state level as a director of the Minnesota School Safety Center. It's a privilege, it's an honor to serve community, to collaborate in the process, and to assure that students are safe, healthy, and supported. There's a great reward in knowing that you're doing the right thing when serving the community objectively and honestly. It is so simple to do the right thing. I have said that all along in a career. There's nothing to cover up for. It's so easy to make that decision and do the right thing. And again, thank you everybody for the forum.
Thank you, Nancy. Terry? We'll let you wrap it up.
Well, I'd just like to say I'm really passionate about this school district. I've lived here all my life. I went to school here. I've been part of the district as a teacher, as a substitute, as a para, and in all different aspects. I'm here. A vote for me. You will know that I'm here to serve everyone in the NRHE district. And again, I'm passionate about the district and its future, especially our students. You can count on me to be a decision maker and a team player. And I'd like to thank all of you for organizing this forum and for everyone for listening. And remember, your vote counts, and I hope that you would honor me with one of your votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So as we wrap up tonight, I hope that those of you listening, or those of you that perhaps will listen at a later point in time, have gained some good insight to help you make an informed decision. I'm sure that any of these fine folks would be willing to entertain any other questions you might have for them. I know Karen, the Flatness again, had a commitment with coaching tonight, couldn't be here, but I'm sure she would, if you wanted to speak to her and get her insight as well. And again, Joanne Maloney running for that 2-year term unopposed. But thanks to all you guys. It's been entertaining. And to all of you out there, thank you for your kind attention. And on or before November 3rd, please vote safely.